Calling this meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call, if you wouldn't mind just...
Bowman Deanna, present.
Stork Noah, present.
Grinsley Cecile.
Kevin Boyd.
Jordan Sullivan.
Carl Brown.
Sharon DeGraw.
All right, so we got item A and B done. The first item is any public discussion, anything not on the agenda. I don't know if anyone's here for something that is not on the agenda. Does not look like it, so... All right, so the first item is a certificate of appropriateness, item D. The first one is for 110 East College Street.
Okay, 110 East College Street is located here in the East College Street Historic District. This is the front of the house. As described in the staff report, it is a two-story gable roof cottage. We have exposed purlins at the roof line and at the porch. We have exposed rafter tails with an open soffit. Most of the wider windows on the second floor are 4/1 double hung windows. The windows on the first floor tend to be 3/1 double hung windows. As you can see here, and we'll also see on the back, there's a lap siding with a little bit of a wider lap in the first story of the house, and there are corner boards. Then there's a band board with a little drip edge, and then there's a more narrow lap siding on the second floor, and it has mitered corners. On the back of the house is the screen porch that was added in the past. I've described that in the staff report. The current project is to remove that screen porch and add a one-story addition. I was mistaken in the staff report. It's not a bedroom, it's a multi-purpose room. It will have a first floor bath in it. And part of the consideration here is getting something that works with the house as well as, the screen porch did, but also make sure we can avoid the second story window here. Here's just another detail of it. Part of the plan is to salvage some of the wood that's still in good condition from this to help build the entry stoop at the back of the house. The owner is concerned with making sure that, things are done in a sustainable practice and also that things match the house as well. This is the plan of the addition. So north is to the top. We have the front porch area, the main body of the house with a little bump out on the west side. And then this is the addition. As you can see, it's set in from the corners of the house. There will be a pair of windows on the west side, mimicking the pair of windows in the bump out. There will be a triplet of windows in the rear, similar to the ones in the front of the house. We'll have the entry stoop and then the bathroom area. And there will be a smaller window. I believe that it's actually going to be in this location. Here we have an elevation. As I mentioned in the staff report, there were some drawings submitted and they needed some tweaking. There was a hip roof instead of a gable roof and several things like that. And I believe these drawings have all been updated. So this is the current proposal. We have a gable roof. It has the 3 purlins that are exposed like on the front porch. Same general height as the front porch. As you can note, and we can go back to the photos if you need to, we're not going to be matching this mid-level band board here as the horizontal area. We're going to be matching what the porch does instead. So it's a little bit lower. In some houses like this, you might see where the eave end of the first floor somehow aligns with this band board. You're going to find that more often in older, like taller houses like Queen Anne's and stuff like this, but that's not the case with this house. So here you see the rear exterior door. It's going to be a half-light door with panels below, the 3 windows. The siding and trim will match the lower level to which it's attached, so we can match the coursing and the siding. The foundation will match the stucco-coated foundation on the main house as well. And here you can see where it's avoiding this existing window. So this is the west side. The west side has the bump out in the main body of the house. Here is the addition. So we have a pair of windows mimicking that. And again, we can see that the addition is meant to line up with the roof on the front porch. The rear bump stoop is there too. This is the east side. The east side is a little bit more simple, though all the windows are singles. There are a couple smaller windows on the first floor, so this window will mimic this window that I believe is probably in the kitchen area. There's an existing door to grade here, and again, we're just kind of mimicking what the porch does, only it's a little bit wider. All of the materials here will be wood to match the house. We'll have wood siding. We can, of course, approve cement board in this case if they want it. We have corner boards, so it would be easy to match that, and that would be up to the owner. The trim will be wood, and I believe that they are also going to have the windows as wood as well. The window and door product information still does need to be approved on this project, but generally, the owner also wants to do what would follow the guidelines, so staff is not really concerned about that. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, so it's a fairly simple, straightforward project. We do have a lift, an accessibility lift that will be attached to the rear stoop. It's shown here in this case, and generally anywhere that would need to be installed would be fine. The railing will match the, our general railing. We're not going to match the front porch railing, which is has siding instead of spindles, so it would just be a general square spindle. So yes, the recommended motion is an approval with the door and window product submitted.
All right, so just to remind everyone the order of operations here. The commission will just ask Jessica any questions. There may be something she presented that we didn't quite understand. We'll open it up for the applicant to talk. If any of you are the applicant and would like to, you do not have to, you're welcome to. And we'll kind of close the public hearing, have a motion, and discuss among ourselves. So anyway, are there any questions for Jessica, just to understand what exactly she presented? If not, we'd love to have we'd invite the applicant to speak if you'd like. You're not obligated to. If you just would sign in for our minute taker too, please.
Should I interject now or after? Okay.
Can I take this?
You can,
Sure.
yep.
Okay. I feel more comfortable speaking without it. My name is Boo Wilson. We purchased the house about 15 years ago. Before that, we had rented on Iowa Avenue. I was astonished at the difference. 3 blocks makes a huge difference when it's from a non-historic to a historic neighborhood. It was a pleasant surprise. Consequently, in designing the addition, I've tried to consider the neighborhood. I could have designed a less expensive addition that would serve as a bedroom and bathroom, but I wanted to consider the neighborhood too. If we did a smaller addition that is basically just a bedroom with a bathroom, it's going to look very attractive as an investment property with 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. So I didn't do that. I designed something more in keeping with the first floor of the house, because both my husband and I are in our 70s. What we've designed would make a very nice home office, and which would make it more attractive to a buyer who was intending to live in the building. So that's about all I can say, and not very well, but.
Great, thank you very much.
And if you have any questions about the project, we'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have any questions for the homeowner? I think we're all right. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? If not, then I think we need a motion on the floor so that we can discuss.
Seligren, I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 1110 East College Street as presented in the staff report with the following conditions: that the door and window product is approved by staff.
DeGraw, second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say it's a sharp design, and I appreciate the detail and time you put into it. It looks appropriate to me. It blends in very nicely with the historic home that you're living in, so I appreciate that.
Very similar proportion. My neighbors are there. They were solid middle-class houses. They weren't fancy, but they're very comfortable for a couple or for a small family. And, and we liked it for the neighborhood to maintain the character it has.
Thank you. I'm going to kind of relay what you said a little bit for our minute taker, just so that they can hear what you said. So no, you don't need to say it again. I just was going to say that the applicant commented on the nature of her house and her neighborhood and trying to make it fit again. So just wanted to, so you don't have to get back up. I just want to make sure our minute taker knows that happened. So I think we're good. Good.
Jessica, how often does the commission approve bathrooms in an addition like that?
I think that most of the time when somebody comes to the commission in order to do a one-story addition on a historic house, a bathroom is included, almost every time. If not, then it's somehow a kitchen addition, and they usually add a bathroom somewhere internally from the area that used to be the kitchen. It's a common thing.
And to clarify for myself, right, that generally when we're talking about something like this, our purview is not how they're configuring the interior space, it's
Correct.
the exterior. Okay.
We usually don't need even a plan for our review. When we have a plan, usually it is to explain a window configuration, or maybe something like, we are mimicking the smaller window in this one. And, just showing kind of the area where that is might make sense since we're not, matching one of the larger windows on the east side. But yeah, we don't actually care what the use of the space on the inside is.
Well, and to your point, I think part of the concern of bathroom in a space like that is the square area. And so historically, that could be an impact if you're adding a large space as an addition. But I totally love using the wood on the exterior and the window design. I think that's all great. I was also concerned about the railing in the back. Is that historical, or is that more of a certain necessity design?
Railing, this landing will be probably at least 30 inches above grade, and so a railing would be required. And it would be actually similar to the railing that is in here. This railing is slightly unusual for us because the bottom rail actually goes to the ground. And we've already talked to the applicant about that. It's typical instead for the railing to be raised up, just less than 4 inches, so we follow code, but that way you can push all the snow and leaves and everything off of that area without as many issues if the railing went to the ground.
I particularly appreciate that you replicated the pitch of the roof on the main part of the house instead of just going with a flat roof, which would have been less expensive, but this is much more attractive and appropriate to the house, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say you could really tell the attention that somebody who's lived in this house and appreciates this house is really put some thought and care into this addition. So.
Well, and we've been working on this project since last fall. This is a 2021 application.
Any other comments? Otherwise, I think we're ready to vote. All right, there's a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. That is approved. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, sorry. On to the next item. This is 109 and 119 East College Street, local landmark.
Yeah, and I'll explain the addresses. What's going on here is they submitted the application under the address of 119 East College. We approved the tower building as an addition to 109 East College. And so that's why I've added 109. I did go and clarify with the building officials that the tower's address will actually be 123 East College. So it won't be either of those. So the project we're talking about is the signage for the tower addition to 109 East College, which is located here. We have College Street, Clinton Street downtown. It's the west bay of the Dooley block. This is the plan, so I'll kind of explain. We have the corner bank building, so this is Clinton Street. This is College Street and the pedestrian mall. Here are the buildings, so we have Martini's, the Union Bar, Soap Opera Revival, and we moved down here to 109, which used to be Giovanni's. And so at the alley, there is a tall tower building, and it's located here in the plan. So this is the alley. At the time when this was approved by the commission, these were some of the renderings, so I brought them back just to kind of remind you of the tower. So this says view from South Clinton Street. This is where Hot House Yoga was here, or it might still be there. And this is kind of the view of the tower from there. This says view from the Graduate Hotel entry, and that's not correct. This is from the parking lot in the corner of Burlington and Clinton. I unfortunately think that this might be a representation of the building that replaces the mill, because this is the parking lot that was on the west side of the mill. Anyway, this is the tower that we're talking about. And here we have a view from the Graduate Hotel entry. So this is Dubuque Street. This is what Estella's is in this building, and this is the view. So we will have a sign that goes in this location. To meet code, it's actually smaller than what we are showing there. There is going to be a sign in this location right here. And there's a little sign at this location, because I think that the pedestrians might enter somehow in this general area. So this is the first sign. So this is the one on the end, and it was something that we looked at it and compared it to the sign code, and then they revised it smaller. So this is smaller than the first time it came through to us. They can only meet 90 square feet, I believe, is the total that they can have in this area. And it also has to be just a percentage of the wall space on which the sign is installed. And that's all part of the sign code itself. So this explains that the sign will, where is that? Oh, it's an aluminum sign, painted white polycarbonate face, so it has kind of that Lexan-like or kind of, well, it's a polycarbonate that will be the sign here. And there's a very tiny word, the, which likely won't be visible. This shows the sign that's on the end, so that from the Dubuque Street entrance, as you can see, it's very small on this elevation. It's about 7 square feet. The letters are about 19 inches tall, and it's about 55 inches long. And then this is the third sign. They've cut the building short, so this line is a cut line, so the tower extends off to the east a little further. But it shows that it's fitting in that top band at the top of the wall. And in all cases, I believe, I'll go back here to make sure. Yeah, in all cases, we have a aluminum body for the letters and a polycarbonate face, so they're all the same. And they will all be illuminated, I am sure. Yes, they are. Basically, they meet the sign code. They were expected. They're going to be up very high. Not a lot of our guidelines talk about this. I included some of the information from the downtown district's sign guidelines as well. And they also had made an area that was like the dedicated sign ban in each case. And so for those reasons, staff recommends approval of the project.
All right, so just any clarifying questions? These are just things you didn't maybe understand.
I'm curious, Jessica, so we're looking at the sign design, and I'm newer to this commission. I'm wondering, did we ever consider the building design? I'm just curious about the history of that.
Yeah, and so what happened is, I'm not going to remember all the dates. Maybe I put it in here.
Yeah, that's fine.
What happened is the commission actually looked at this project preliminarily as something whether or not the commission could kind of get on board with it. What was going to end up happening is they were going to landmark these 4 buildings in exchange for some height and density bonuses, I believe, for the tower building. The tower itself was designed to be back on the alley so that visually it wouldn't appear to be part of the downtown district so much. It would be something back and behind and above. And so the commission not only commented on preliminary designs so that the developer would have some idea that the commission could support what they were going to do. Then the commission reviewed the landmark designation for those properties. And then finally they came through and we reviewed the changes to the facades on the 4 buildings. There were some slight changes and some changes to the rear elevations. Of course, there was a demolition of the rear addition to one of the buildings and several things that happened. And in part of that, we approved to some degree the tower addition. We looked at the fact that they had some material coloring that could kind of work with the building, that there was that separation to visually separate it. Yeah, generally that's kind of what we looked at. And then of course the sign comes to you because it's still on a building on a landmark property, even though it's back at the alley. We have approved, and I talked about this in the staff report too, we've approved some commercial signs for just staff approval because we're getting applications for them over and over again. But this sign, just by the nature of it being on this tall building and it's a modern building, it didn't meet the conditions for staff approval, so it necessarily had to come to the commission for approval.
Other clarifying questions before we get into discussion? I don't think we have any public comment, but let's get that done if we can. Any members of the public here to speak on this particular project? If not, let's get a motion on the floor so we can discuss.
Oh, DeGraw, I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 109 East College Street as presented in the application.
Seligren, second.
Right, any discussion?
I do appreciate it, reproportion, the smaller. I think it fits nicely in the space comparatively, so just want to say that.
I don't know if the way the NEST is presented, exactly the way it'll appear on the building, the N and the E are too close together. It starts to look like ST is a separate word or abbreviation. So I would open the space between N and E, and my specialty is typography, so that's why I see that.
Yeah, and I think, Sherry, that while they probably made their best effort to make the rendering accurate, I think that the measured drawing is probably supposed to be
Accurate.
This here.
Yeah,
So yeah, it is.
you almost want to double the gap that's between N and E right now. And
To match what's between the E and the curve of the S.
Yeah,
That's
you-
what I would do as well.
you kind of visually add up the white space in your head and introduce that white space between the N and the E.
I can certainly let the sign, it's someone I've known actually professionally for more than a decade, so I can certainly provide the comments
Oh,
because
sure.
of your professional.
Our purview is just, is this what was presented appropriate or not appropriate for this building.
No,
Yeah,
that's-
now, I mean, I can't say that typography falls under the purview of the commission, but approval of the design of the sign is. And so, you know, I can just say to
That was like helpful hints from Heloise on
Yeah, no, no, I
typography.
think-
look at it, you know, that's certainly, you know, if you choose to approve it, I can just then say, and there were some comments about this. And, yeah, if you want to include that they must adjust something, that is certainly within you're approving the sign. So you can do that if you wanted to.
I think it's fine. I just added that comment to be helpful.
Yeah, I think we should maybe provide them that comment, but I'm comfortable as presented.
I agree with providing that information, please.
All right, any other discussion?
So I'm curious in the materials you provided, when it talks about best practices and what's encouraged and what to avoid. So it talks about internally illuminated plastic-faced letter forms or backlit acrylic-faced cabinet signs. Is that what this is?
It's not, and I've actually had this clarified because that's part of our Iowa City sign regulations as well. And so if you think of signs specifically from maybe the 70s, where it would be a big box where the letters are printed on it and the entire thing is illuminated, so, you know, it's the background and the letters, it's all on one piece.
I feel like dive bars often have that
Yeah.
as their
Got it.
Yeah.
signage.
In this case, since it's the letters themselves that are illuminated, they're not doing what they can't do.
Okay, got it.
basically.
Thank you.
All right, ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to the Montgomery Butler House. This is the third time we've talked about this, but we're making some progress here, folks. So let me just provide a little bit of context and history, and then we need to vote. There was a memo that is a blank for what we do tonight. I went to the Parks and Recreation Commission last month. They unanimously supported this, our hopes to have a working group to make some decisions around this property. And just as a reminder, in May of 1839, Iowa City was chosen to be home of the new territorial and state capital. The problem was there was no Capitol building here yet, right? It was the middle of nothing. And many other cities who wanted to be the new capital offered space temporarily in hopes they could kind of steal away the capital. Walter and Elizabeth Butler, who were among the first settlers in Iowa City, understood that that was a very real risk and quickly built a frame structure to offer it to the legislature where they met. It was called Butler's Capital, or the lean-to capital. I think the Rush construction job made it lean a little, saving Iowa City's place in the future capital location. I kind of think of them as the godparents of Iowa City. 2 years later, in 1841, new arrivals were still exciting news for pioneers. The second territorial governor arrived. People showed up at the hotel to meet him. A month later, the steamboat arrived, the Ripple. I'm going to see if I can get the Ripple in twice this meeting. It's going to happen. And impromptu parties were kind of welcoming them. That same year, two African Americans, Frank and Martha Reno from Ohio, arrived to purchase a lot and build a home for their young family across from the Capitol Square that was still being built. But they discovered newly passed racist black codes, territorial laws meant to punish and discourage black people from coming to Iowa. The Renos, now in Iowa City, needed a white person to put up a $500 bond for them to stay. The Butlers, community leaders, made a public show of how terrible the law was and secured that bond, trying to set a welcoming tone for the new capital as much as they could given the awful laws. I feel very familiar with frustrations with what's happening at the state, what state legislative laws look like that may be out of step. But so the godparents of Iowa City, the Butlers, built this house on the bluff of the Iowa River. Walter died, Elizabeth married Martin Montgomery, and the families of the Butlers and Montgomerys ran a ferry service to help pioneers cross the Iowa River. There are very few historic assets as old as this property, pre-Civil War, from 1859. It deserves a conversation before its history is gone, and a 165-year-old building is simply added to the landfill. And that's what we're asking to do, is to have a conversation with stakeholders to explore what should become of this property, to address it, and think about what it might be used as. When I was at the last meeting, there was like, the Parks and Rec meeting, there was like 8 people there to talk about swim lanes and swim times. And several of them had some ideas just sitting and listening. So, which I thought was kind of encouraging. They were just regular citizens. So I think there's some opportunities for people in Iowa City to consider what might be able to be used for the site. So we're hoping to, I would ask for your vote again, to send the request to the city council, to staff, a working group to figure out what exactly to do with this property. And I will try to keep it short, and that's it. But I had to get a little history in because we don't get to do it nearly enough.
And for the procedure here, somebody should make a motion. You know, it could be generally about
Oh, to approve, to sign on to the,
to approve the memo to be sent or something like that.
It's a memo to create a board or a commission.
it's just kind of a working group is what it's called. I think it's the specific request is, assuming we vote in favor tonight, both the Historic Preservation Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission are requesting the formation of a working group to investigate possible reuses of the Montgomery Butler House that would include appropriate city staff, members of both the commissions, the Iowa River Trail and Waterworks Park users. Last time there was a Waterworks Park issue, like 300 people emailed the city council, and perhaps other interested members of the public. We ask for support of the working group. The goal will be to explore potential uses and recommend to city leadership a decision of some kind on this property. The Parks and Rec Commission unanimously supported this idea at their March 9th, 2022 meeting, and it's up to us on what we do tonight. And then there's some background that you have access to, was in the packet, but that's the request.
Do we want to include the word preserve in that description?
I might have if I would have done it sooner, but this is exactly what the Parks Commission approved, so I don't want to, I want to have us approve the same thing.
Okay.
But that's all right. I wish I would have had that edit 2 months ago, but here we are. Any questions?
I guess in making a motion, we can include the word preserve.
I would prefer to just approve the memo as written, because if not, then I have to go in and explain that there's a slight difference between the two commissions, and I'd really rather not
All right.
do that. I think any decision is going to come back to us at some point.
So, do you have one down there? A motion?
I'm trying to think if I can construct this. Thoman moves to approve a memo as written about creating a working group to explore the reuses of the Montgomery Butler House.
That sounds great. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Brown, second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, folks. I will keep you posted on that progress.
Great.
Did you end up fitting Ripple in there twice or only once?
Oh, you're going to get it later.
Okay,
The
got it.
ripple's coming.
forward
2
to it.
agenda items, the ripple's coming. All right. Item F.
Thank you.
Report on certificates by staff and chair. Yes, thank you very much. Excited to see your project come together.
Okay, for certificates of no material effect, we have 1113 East College shown here. They have a really great barn garage in the back. They're having problems with the foundation and water getting in, and so this garage barn will get a new foundation. It was suggested by staff to set on a slight curb to avoid the water issue. I'm not sure exactly what they'll do. 422 Brown Street, so this is the White House in the Black's Gaslight Village that we all are familiar with. In the front of the house, there's an enclosed porch, and the apartment that's adjacent to the enclosed porch has a basement patio. And so, like all of Black's Gaslight Village, it's a little interesting. There is a retaining wall along here, as you can see here, and it's poured concrete. and they're replacing it. They're going to use concrete block, but they're going to put a skim coat on it so it still looks nice-ish. And they have also been instructed that the railing will actually need to meet the guidelines if it needs to be reconstructed. So it doesn't right now because the spindles are attached to the outside and the bottom rail isn't in the right place. There's multiple reasons why it's not appropriate. We had at least a couple minor reviews. 1027 East College. There's a lot on East College for some reason, and it tends to come in clumps. This was just a roof replacement. This house is being sold currently. And by the way, going back, we review each property and past projects as we go. And this house did not have a porch at one point in time, and so the commission had approved this porch as the reconstruction. 505 Clark Street has a historic garage. They're just replacing the door, and then they have some other repairs. Intermediate review. Okay, so this is one of the alterations to the front of some of these new landmark buildings. So this was a minor alteration to something we had approved, which means it's an intermediate review. One of the things is that on the old Sears building, they are installing a new storefront door, entry door here, which we knew about and approved. This pair of doors, which are just solid steel without any windows, were going to remain, but they actually are so rusted through they cannot. And so they will be replacing them with a pair of doors that look very similar to what they're putting in the other bay, so will match. The interesting thing here is that as part of the project, there is an elevator tower now that is located inside the building in about this area. And so these will not be operable doors. They're just to look like doors. They won't have hardware or anything, so there won't be any people trying to use them to escape or anything, but they will appear like doors, but they won't be. The other thing is on 109, if you ever went to Giovanni's, there was that interesting little triangular alcove that you would walk in. It was put in there so that they would have a more controlled entry from, breezes going into the building. It's at an angle because of the fire suppression system piping happened to come up through the floor right in that location. There's not going to be a door there, actually. This storefront would not have access for people going in and out of it. It will communicate with the other buildings. So what they're going to do is remove the alcove and again put a fake door. It'll look just like a door, but it won't have hardware anymore, so that we always maintain the historic storefronts having a door as a part of the architectural language and a part of their historic character. 508 South Summit Street. This was a rear addition and entry porch that the commission had approved last year, and it was a simple change. They, instead of having a pair of French doors here, they have gone down to one door and a window, and moved the stair over. So it was just a small change. 1415 Davenport Street. This is the historic Rose Hill house, and this was actually a case of work without a permit that was accidentally discovered. They're building a sauna, and as an occupiable space with electrical and everything going to it, it actually needs to be either fully attached to the house, which we would have discouraged as a basement addition, and so it will be moved 3 feet away from the house per the building code. It's going to be a small sauna. It has reclaimed windows that won't actually have a visible door. The door will have siding on it, so it's kind of a hidden door, and it's a very tiny structure. We approved that as an intermediate review.
All right, we're up to the approval of minutes for the March 10th meeting. Does anyone have any edits? If not, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Seligren, I move to approve the minutes for March 10, 2022.
Brown, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. All right, also in the agenda packet was the Downtown Iowa City is applying to be a cultural and entertainment district. It's a new designation by the state. They were putting together an application and asked us as a commission to weigh in. The application was due last week. I wrote a letter on our behalf. I made it very vague, used that I was chair and referred to the preservation community rather than the commission. So that letter is in the packet as a heads up and thing that sometimes we need to do just to be in there. I referenced the Ripple in the letter. I talk about it being a downtown city being a place of impromptu gatherings from our founding. When the Ripple showed up, they threw them a party. So there's the Ripple twice in one night.
What's the effect of having a designation like that? It seems just sort of flim-flam to me.
You know, I didn't really ask. They asked me for it.
Arts funding, perhaps?
I think there's some funding that comes with it.
Okay. I mean, isn't every well, maybe not every downtown is a,
I mean, you need to get out of Iowa City and check
yeah,
out
right.
some of
I know.
the places they are.
But then you're just stating the obvious.
struggling. Well, hopefully whoever the applicant, the people agree, and you can get it designated here. So, all right. On to item I, the commission discussion. This is the awards. We have awards for we do annual awards.
Yeah, so we do an awards presentation every year. When we've had them in person, last few years, we had like 100 people show up. So they're well attended. They're one of our only outreach events. And so we do recommend continuing them. This year would be the 39th. So it seems that at least we should have 2 more. It is something that's in the past had been a very heavy staff time, and we just can't do that anymore. I mean, it used to take a full 10 to 15 hours a week for the entire time for staff to do that. So we do need the commission to be involved. The process is usually we collect nominations. We had someone today nominate their property, and they're highly deserving of an award. And we have contractors who nominate. Hopefully, occasionally, you see projects in your districts. We also are aware of projects that have been approved, of course. And we can have nominations from properties that they must be historic, but they do not need to be in one of the designated districts. We then meet as a subcommittee to decide who might get an award and in what categories. And then we send notification to the property owners soliciting information about their project. And then we create an awards presentation. We invite the contractors, we invite the owners, we create award certificates to provide for them. We have done the last couple online. I think that for the commission members who are involved, that made it a little bit maybe easier. For me, it was more fun that way, but the attendance is, of course, very low. And last year, we had an issue. They couldn't watch it at the same time it was being done like they could the first year because they had to wait for the recording. It was unfortunate, but it did happen. And so basically, the commission needs to decide if they want to continue with this and how we might proceed. One of the things we need to do is decide on a date or come up with an idea or a plan to decide on a date. And usually we need at least 2.5 to 3 months in advance to really work through that.
Did we do September last year? Was it?
Last year, it was scheduled for May, like the year before. But frankly, staff was not ready, and so we had to postpone. There are some elements of the presentation itself that staff has to do because we have the information and we end up with the photos. And so, yeah, we ended up postponing it to July last year.
We had the same problem from staff's point of view last year, and we tried, I thought, to modify it a little bit. Was it any less of a burden for you last year than previously?
It was less of a burden. First of all, staff was less involved in writing the scripts, and so that the script writing went, I thought, much better than normal.
So good. I just remember being so entertained by that.
I still think, every time I see that house, I think of your description
Yes,
of
it was. I mean, it was exciting.
Well, and what was nice about that too is, I mean, we do have to keep some genericness about how they are delivered because we want to make sure that we put forward, our best vision and use our correct language and stuff. And that was done. But at the same time, Cecile, your script, I mean, only you could have delivered that script.
Well-
It was like, it was from you, and it had not only your personality, but the storytelling, and it really worked.
Well, when we give as many awards as we're giving, we've got to find some way to inject some feeling into it, and that's why I liked your recommendation of having a musical introduction that was appropriate
Did I
to.
recommend that?
You did. I thought it was ingenious.
Wait, but I also recommended having the in memoriam of the
Yeah.
buildings that
Of the
have been
buildings
Yes,
that have
yes,
come
that's
down.
good too.
sometime we're just gonna throw that in.
We should. I mean, that gives it some liveliness and makes it interesting and something to be talked about,
I think so too. Yeah.
Anyway. No, I think that, part of it is having the commission involved because there's not a lot except for coming to meetings that you need to do. And so, I don't know if maybe we want to not have it. We have to have the subcommittee when they meet to decide who gets the awards. That actually cannot be a quorum. We can't have a quorum for that because then it needs to be a public meeting. And traditionally, we don't want to have to discuss whether or not somebody gets an award in front of somebody who might not be happy about that.
Right.
The history of the awards used to be that the applicants would apply. We brought in reviewers from elsewhere who would publicly go through the projects and decide who got awards or not, and there was a
That was
lot
awful,
of
yeah.
contentiousness.
Yeah.
And so we do not do that. It's all a feel-good thing completely. But I'm wondering if, except for that part, if maybe, there could be some semblance of a whole commission involvement and little bits of things that need to be done. Not everybody was going to want to present. Not everybody can go install yard signs. There's likely some task, large or small, that anybody could do.
I think the other key thing is that makes it more manageable is not being a little more judicious with the number of awards we give. I feel like we get in these meetings and they're like, give an award, they're free, everyone gets one, and then we have to write a script for each one and gather photos and put up. I feel like in some ways keeping it a representation of of the best of what has happened. I think keeping it a little more judicious, I think helps keep the work light and also makes the awards a little more,
Have more prestige.
yeah, I guess.
Would it, has there been a standard in the past that it's not always something that comes under review?
No, it doesn't have to be. It could
But
be any.
would that be helpful because we'd have all this information
Well,
available?
but we do, so the painting projects are not going to be something that comes under review.
Gotcha, right.
Because we don't review painting. But yet, they tend to be really obvious.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for people we tend to give more painting awards than anything else just because sometimes the difference is spectacular.
Yes, it's exciting.
And a lot more people do those than, say, additions or rehabilitations or something.
It's exciting, but it's not necessarily exciting to write about, I learned.
No.
There's only so much you can say.
Yeah. And so in those cases, it's nice if there's something about the house or if we send them and ask them to provide a narrative. Some property owners write pages. We've gotten a 5-page report about their project before, and we have to boil it down to a paragraph, so it's a
Yeah,
little
I got
difficult.
really chewed out because I didn't use what the owner had written, or didn't use more of it.
Yeah.
Appreciate.
I usually try to let them know that was great, but we're going to use the small part of it.
Can I ask a question about, I feel like the first step is getting nominations, right? Like, what, do you guys send out stuff to your, like, to known contractors? Is that?
Yeah, and at the last meeting, Carl made a good suggestion about, just periodically or every month reminding the commission to, if you see something, say something. But, we, in the past, would email our contractors and say, hey, do you have any projects? And,
I mean, some do.
it's sometimes it's just difficult to even compile that email to get all their email addresses together and
Make sure you're
stuff
not
like that.
leaving anybody out.
Yeah, the other thing that we have done before is put a notice on our Facebook page, but since we haven't done anything with our Facebook page in like 2.5 years now.
Well, it could be something though that we, like if we, I don't know.
Yeah, what we would do is say,
in the
we're
algorithm.
now accepting nominations for the awards. Please submit your awards
And then all of us
here
share,
by this date. We usually set a deadline for those awards.
I'm wondering, like, to me, that is the first step. And then once, like, we can get that moving, either with us collecting stuff in our neighborhoods or stuff we see around, hopefully it'll be nice out. Maybe we can use it as a reason to get out and walk in a neighborhood. And,
Unlikely.
But I think it's important to ask the contractors just to keep in their mind that there is such a thing as an Historic Preservation Commission, because we're easily forgotten sometimes.
No, and we can certainly email them too, like we always
Yeah.
have. That's not a big
Yeah.
deal. I have also, I've been here 7 years now, and each year my ability to keep a running list, has improved. So, not by a whole lot, but.
I just wonder if we want to set like a deadline for, the second half of May or the end of May, 6 weeks from now, to just get those in.
Okay.
And then at our May, like for us, meaning that we have another meeting in May to remind us, we can get, if I don't know if that fits in your work schedule to be able to send out the contractors, we can figure out what the Facebook page says. I don't know that.
Sure. So you're thinking that we could, sometime soonish, we could send out a notice to contractors, maybe on the Facebook page. You guys could look around or think
Yep.
about it a little bit, go through.
Well, I'll
old
email friends of Historic
projects.
Preservation and ask them to start thinking of
Yeah,
nominations too.
And have a deadline of,
I would say like the end of May, which would give us, and then at that May meeting perhaps, or maybe the June meeting, we could set a date and an involvement process, knowing kind of what that looks like.
yeah, and we would have to decide. Frankly, one of the biggest decisions would be, is it taped or is it live? And then if it's live, where is it?
I'm feeling September. I don't know.
Well, we had said once before it was a good idea to have it later in the year because people would have finished perhaps their renovations by the fall, or that's usually a goal.
Yeah, the interesting thing is this will be the 2021
It'll be 2021
awards
complete.
that we will be having.
Oh, okay.
But it's maybe like getting students involved who are back in September. The weather's like a little bit more predictable. I guess in the summer it's predictable, but
I just think if we have a deadline for ourselves in nominations, that will force us to
yeah.
make the other decisions, and maybe at that May meeting on the 12th, we can outline kind of a more specific timeline. But to me, the first thing to get going is the nominations, because that takes the longest.
Yeah,
And we
usually.
could just set whatever arbitrary deadline you want, Jessica, based on when you get a chance to email.
Yeah, so when I think about this, I think, okay, so we have a deadline for nominations, and the two things that immediately follow that, just so we're aware, are the subcommittee meeting and deciding, and then the commission will vote to approve the awards. And so, if we have a deadline the end of May, we're not going to turn around and approve those awards in June, so it would be July or something. I mean, that's
Yep.
fine, but I just want to make you aware that we're not going to suddenly move forward in
Right.
June.
Yeah, I feel like August or September is our likely
Yeah.
timeline based on that.
And then if we're going to talk about this in May, should we talk already about next year's calendar so that we're saying these things 2 months prior, so that if the idea is to get us back towards a May, because would the idea be to get us in a normal?
to be May.
The reason we picked May was because
It's Preservation Month.
It was Preservation Month, but the challenge with spring, with the first half of the year, is we get the most applications, both staff review and otherwise, and our staff time is tightest.
Right.
Because we only have half staff, essentially.
Right.
I mean, the city will tell you otherwise, but that's. Sure. Anyway, so that is the challenge with May. So I think generally summer, fall is just kind of realistic of what we're able to do, given the limitations of what we got.
Yeah, when I first came here, it was in January, just because that's what was the dead time.
Sounds like something you wanted. I almost, like an outdoor, some kind of outdoor thing that sounds lovely with some champagne.
Yeah, as long, we do need to show slides, so we can
Oh, sure.
show
Yeah,
the projects.
we
It's
talked
a
about-
visual thing.
Yeah, we've talked about doing it at like one of the historic landmarks potentially, or there's a lot of options we've talked about.
Could we get
Ooh,
film
how
scene
about
to
the
loan us
closed
their screen?
mansion?
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of options. All of this, here, I'm not gonna, I'm not.
No, I think, why don't we do, as Kevin was thinking, so we'll set a deadline for nominations, the end of May.
Yeah, and it could be early June. I just was trying to kind of get
No, I think,
it's just,
End of May sounds good.
yeah.
If we say, if we put
Yeah.
a June word in there,
Right.
then it'll slip.
yeah,
to the end
let's
of
make
June.
it
We-
either the 20th or the 23rd, so that we're a week ahead of the end of June.
I think May 23rd makes sense. That's,
Okay.
people can do their thing over the weekend if they want.
Okay.
And then we can bring our ideas in the May meeting or after, if we've. done
Yeah,
it.
and you-
They could go directly, we don't have to talk about it at the meeting. It's just an
No.
opportunity for us to see each other.
Yeah, it would be best if we don't talk about nominations at a meeting, just so they're not in the minutes, just in case. We don't want somebody to think, we did have somebody a few years ago who thought that they were getting an award and they weren't. And they even came to the show. It was really unfortunate.
I must have blocked that out, or it was before my time.
Yeah, I don't actually know why they thought
Okay.
that, but whatever. So yeah, the deadline the 23rd, May 12th, we'll mention it again to you guys so that you can have the same deadline of the 23rd, but we'll try to get something on Facebook. I can definitely email the contractors soonish so that they can have a little time, and then we can move from there.
And I think, Jessica, I'll try to maybe, you and I can maybe chat before the May meeting. We can kind of outline a timeline and
Yeah,
some things that.
Sounds good.
What we need to decide at what point. We did that, I think, last time too.
I'll do a Facebook announcement if you want. I think last year the photograph just wasn't, it was a weird photograph.
okay,
Okay.
sure. That sounds good.
Good.
I have actually two things with the discussion. The other thing that's on there, and then I also have a thing to add. I wanted to know if anyone had any thoughts that they might want to attend the Preserve Iowa Summit, the annual state conference. It is June 2nd through 4th, so it's usually the Thursday through the Saturday. It's in Mason City. I am not attending, and so it's possible we could pay for one.
I'm interested. That would be my last meeting, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, our meeting would be the week after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be interested? Anybody else would be
Jessica,
interested?
I've thought about it just because it might work in my life. Saturday certainly will not, but I could do like the Wednesday, Thursday, and come back Friday night. And it'd be cheaper on the hotel. And that Saturday morning is always the kind of a light day. But I don't know.
And I frankly don't know what our budget is, just an FYI. I wanted to find out if there was any interest so that we can figure out what the budget might be. So you would not be there until Saturday, you'd be just the Thursday, Friday?
I'd probably
or
go
whatever.
up Wednesday night, depending on when it starts Thursday, and then leave, check out Friday morning and leave after the sessions.
And you? Maybe the whole thing?
Maybe the whole thing.
Okay. And I'll just get back to you on that.
If budget's a concern, then just like one overnight and 2 days.
Okay. Oh, and then the other thing is, we do have Cecile and Sherry and Jordan, whose terms are all up. Cecile and Sherry have both put in 2 terms, so it's, you can certainly apply again if you'd like, but it's unlikely that council will appoint you again. Jordan, you've only had 1 term, so you can certainly apply again, and hopefully council would appoint you again. But then otherwise, we would really appreciate it if anyone can help. We would need a new Brown Street representative, a new Summit Street representative. We still need East College Street, Jefferson Street, and I believe we might need a Woodlawn representative since
I'm gonna
we
check with Kevin.
have not had our representative show up for a few meetings this year, so.
May 10th, I believe, is the deadline for those applications.
Oh, so get it in if you want to do that.
All right. Can I just resend the original?
There's a form.
Okay, right,
It's
right.
not
And
hard,
they-
it's 2 questions.
Okay, great.
And
It's
they
like
do,
familiarity with the commission and why do you want to be on it?
Okay,
and they do want you to make an effort.
I will.
By May 10th?
May 10th is the deadline, I believe. It's in the council packet.
And I'm
The
sorry, I
deadline.
didn't look that up.
I
It
did.
is.
Is it?
It definitely is.
Okay.
May 10th.
Jessica, could you send a formal email about that to us?
All of you?
I would appreciate that, just of the districts that need reps and.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we could, Jessica, if you could maybe just link to the maps, just so that, you know what I mean, like, because like the East College is like just this, it's like, so the challenge with, just for reference, with Jefferson, East College, and Woodlawn in particular, there's just not a lot of houses, yeah, there's only so many residents, and particularly with Woodlawn, there's very little turnover in that neighborhood.
Yep.
And several of, I mean, everyone who's ever wanted to serve, I think, already has, and that, of those
But
like 8
there is that
houses.
apartment building.
Yeah,
right?
which is helpful.
Have we put up like flyers there?
No, I don't know. Our representative
somebody
from there,
currently.
Kevin, he does live there. I think that he might have a class conflict right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That may change in May,
Yeah.
with finals and whatnot, which could be the issue.
Right.
So I have his phone number. I got it from Jessica tonight. I'm gonna call.
Just like Jefferson Street, it's a similar situation where most of the properties are rental properties. So the owners can't be representatives, but the residents who live in the district can be a representative.
And the challenge is that the terms of the commission often don't align. Right, this is due May 10th. A lot of those people are if they are moving, are done on, mid-July or whatever, and
Yeah.
then move back in on August 1st. So it's a little tricky for that one in particular.
Yeah.
But those are the 3, or the 2 we have, and then the 3 that are up again.
In
So-
order to have a historic neighborhood, do you have to have a representative on the commission?
The requirement is set by the state that every historic district we have must have one representative
Okay.
on the commission.
Wow.
And then our quorum comes from our total representative count. So our total representative, the commission should be 12 people.
Yeah.
And so 7 is a quorum. And, frankly, if we wouldn't be able to have meetings if we didn't have enough representatives.
Yeah, we should think about adding another at-large, just so that we have more, that's just,
It's the good life. At large.
yep, okay. We're getting ready to adjourn. We just need a motion to adjourn before you go.
I move we adjourn.
A second?
DeGraw, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adjourned. Also, we have our assistant city manager here. Just wanted to say welcome before we finished. You're welcome. We're adjourned, but you're welcome to,
Just wanted to say hello. Redmond Jones, Deputy City Manager. I've been with the city now for 7 months, so I'm finally getting out to some of the commissions and introducing myself. So,
Thank
Nice
you
to
for
meet you.
coming.
Yeah, welcome.
thank you.
We have fun.
yes.
yeah, we're one of the better ones.